This is our real-time customer coordination software that we offer to you. One of the things that we want to share for those that are possibly new to us as to who we are. And Leahy Consulting, we've been in business for over 40 years, specifically working with Macola for over 30 years. We consider ourselves Macola experts based on the amount of tenure that all of our team members have had working with Macola. Working mainly with manufacturing and distribution, so we consider ourselves ERP software specialists in those areas. We have 17 employees. We're based out of Cincinnati, Ohio, but we've been growing across the country, and we have employees in multiple states at this point. What we do, we like to say that we develop software that makes your standard Macola software easier to use. So hopefully this is another option if you've looked at any of our other software packages to help you with that. So going into some more detail, some other things that we offer, there's only one that I'll key on, but I'll just list these here. We've got the Pulse dashboard and reporting. That is probably our main software that customers purchase. We also have a package called Pulse Archive that's used to help archive and speed up your Macola database. Pulse Lockbox. And then there's one that's called Pulse e-commerce. I want to point this out. This often gets discussed along with the sales order portal because customers are sometimes sending you via email, maybe bulk orders. It could be, let's say, on a spreadsheet. And once you've got something captured electronically, we like to help you not have to do what we call double key. And what that means is they captured it once electronically. So let's work on a way to import that into Macola, and in this case, make orders for you automatically based on that spreadsheet. Pulse e-commerce can help with that, can help download off a website, let's say an EDI website as an example, and can export information that you might need to send to customers or vendors as well. We have about 14 other utilities. These are often import-export type utilities that can help do mass updates, mass changes, mass additions into your Macola database in particular areas. As we're discussing today, we're discussing the customer portal, and we also have the vendor portal. And we like to say we have a journey of never-ending enhancements within our company. What is the customer order management software from Pulse? This software is to collaborate in real time your customer sales, reps, distributors to allow them to key in and track their orders. So while we're going through this, we'll be showing you that this is looking directly at our demo Macola database. It's stored on our IIS server, and everything that you're seeing is real time. If somebody else was on another screen updating Macola and I refreshed, the data would be updated on this screen as well. So therefore, it integrates with Macola. You can use it right away. There's no mapping or upload or download that needs to take place. As I mentioned, it's real time and it's fully web-based, allow you from anywhere across the country or really anywhere in the world, as long as you have access to the link and a user ID and password, you can access this data. The goal of this is to eliminate endless emails and voicemails. So part of this is to get the collaboration, not only here outside of email, outside of voicemails, but we've got a history of it as well, and you can always see the latest and greatest of it. So if a manager steps in, if somebody went on vacation and somebody takes over, they can see the full history of an order, what the status is, any discussions between you and your customer, and even between you and your other outside sales reps as an example. So part of what we'd like to do is to get your customers, your reps, and your distributors working for you. So allowing them to update data as you choose to, or possibly even just view and access certain areas of data. Who do we target for this? We target companies with a high volume strategic customer list. Okay? Companies that need improved on-time deliveries and communications. So the quote we've got is, recall the time when a customer called you to verify an important delivery and found you never received their order. Okay? This is often, both directions. You place an order with your vendor, they place an order with you. They call and say, what's the status of this? And there's crickets on the end of the line there as your heart drops, depending on the order, or as their heart drops, depending on how importantly they need something shipped. Okay. I've switched my screen here to actually show you the screen that we are primarily going to be driving from. This is our dashboard. Show you a little bit of the layout of the screen. Up at the top here under the address bar, this is the website that we go to for our demo access to the order portal. As I mentioned, I used a user ID and password. I'm signed in as someone named Bill McNeil. I'm signed in as if I'm the customer service rep at our company. So typically, I'm going to be able to see all orders. I'm going to be able to see all customers. I can sign out of this and sign in as a customer. In that case, I'm going to have a limited list. So for example, here, I've got open sales orders at 159. If I signed in as a customer, I might still have this open sales order link, but possibly it's down to 12 or 10 or 5, whatever the number is, because I'm only going to be looking at items between my customer, that particular customer, and what their information is when I'm signed in as them. Okay. Same as any of the other information that's on the screen, and I might even limit the other links that they have or have different links for them. All of this is configurable that I can adjust at any time, and I like to use the word configurable versus customizable because we're giving you the power to do this. We will train you, we'll show you how to do it. We have a normal 8 to 5 Monday through Friday help desk that would help you with this. Unlimited calls are available with it. But with that, we like to at least give you the choice that if you would like to configure these on your own, make changes, you don't have to call IT, you don't have to call us, you don't have to call what we'd call the power user in the past, but you still always have the option to. So as an example, I've got on here, these are my action items. These are to-dos that I have to work on. And I might copy this hub down and I might have one for Steve. And it might be Steve's action items because possibly I'm a salesperson within the company and I only have certain customers that I work with. And I'm going to cover Steve while Steve's on vacation. So I might make another hub down here that would be specifically Steve's action items. And I might just keep it on there for a week until Steve comes back and I can work and answer any of the pertinent questions that need to be dealt with while Steve is on vacation. These are broke down simply just in a way of organization. You can define them any way you want. You can add or subtract anything that you want on here. I'll be taking you through a few different examples just to help you brainstorm as we go through it. Just to show you some of the choices here, I mentioned the open sales orders. Notice we've got a link to invoice sales orders, lost sales quotes, converted quotes, open quotes, and I'll go over what items are in a moment. Let's drill down into the open sales orders just to show you a little bit of how the grid looks on the screen and what I can do if I don't like the layout of the screen and how easy it is to add, change, or rearrange the screen. So as we mentioned, we had over 100 items to view on here. I could go to a particular page. I could go to the last page at the bottom. I can also come up to the top and look at my columns that I have saved on here by default. I can drag any of these columns if I'd like to rearrange the view. If I were to leave and come back, it's always going to take me back to my default. If I like the changes that I made, I can click Save this search and write over my open sales orders search, or I can make a new search based on that. So for example, let's say we come over here and we want to add a new column, and that column might be my terms code I would like to have. Notice that I've come over to this column called label. And on this column, I have the ability to just type in a business English reference to the actual field that I want to work with. So typing in terms, it found terms code for me. It still has the actual Macola field name on it. So if you've got that available, you can search by this. But we went through, and similar to our Pulse dashboard software, we renamed all of the fields to a business English to allow you better visibility and an ease of access in that case. I'm just checking on the box here to say I'd like to make this visible on my screen. Once I do that, notice terms code is here. I can then drag this to anywhere else on the screen. And again, like I mentioned, I could save this one now to have a copy that includes terms code on it. Coming over to, for example, let's say the bill to name, let's say I want to find a particular customer. I can just start partially typing their name similar to I did a moment ago. It finds Family Bike Shop for me. Clicking on that, now it's subset this for me as well. I've got 4 open sales orders for the Family Bike Shop, all the pertinent information across the top. And let's say I'd like to go into order number 305 to drill in, and this is an order that has been printed in Macola. We'll show you that you can create the order here, but we're just saying that this is once this shows up on the screen, it's in a status that typically what you've created it and printed it in Macola. Okay. Coming up on the screen, I've got my open sales order header here, just like you would see in Macola. So I've got my company information, my order number and date, then the ship to and bill to information that was used. Rest of the header information is here in the middle. If we come down to the bottom, I've got my line numbers that were on this particular order. I could have just as many that are needed on that particular order. Notice that I have a new area that you don't have available in Macola now, and that's to put a note on here. If I had multiple line items, I would have multiple note buttons to enter in. This allows me to put a note per line item into this particular order and have it saved. Okay. Over on the right, when I go to click Save, notice I've got a link on here that says Notify. As I click Save, back up in our configuration, we said what we want to have happen when we click Notify when adding a note, and there's other times as well within the system. What this is going to do is, if configured the way that we are expecting here, we are going to email out to the contact at the customer that's involved with the Family Bike Shop. They are going to get an email with a hot link instead of the actual order in this case, saying a note has been received, and click that hot link to be able to come in and view the note. We have options back on the other screen to be able to see whether they have read the note or not. So there's a number of ways to know whether the customer has actually viewed this order at all and whether they viewed the note or not. If they went and added a note onto here and I saw it, I would have an acknowledge button on the screen that I could click. This would let the customer know that I've read and acknowledged the note, but I could also add a new note as well onto here. Now that is per line item, and just to show you up at the top, we have a section as well for the whole customer order to be able to put a note in. So the same idea here, notice it says who made the note, what time, what day, and then what the actual note is. So if the customer signed in, I would see Family Bike Shop, whatever the name is that they're logging in under, the date and time stamp, and if they put it in, I would get notified via the same setup with an email and a link to come back in. Or I can come out, I can see if there is any action items that are waiting for me to deal with here, okay? So notice we've got some that are waiting on customer and items that are waiting on me to do something with. So I may have made certain changes for the customer to see, and in this case, there's 11 that I'm waiting on, or certain notes for them to read as well. All right, let's go back into the order. We'll show you a couple more things on that particular screen. On here, what we've done is we've allowed you to be able to have a lot of other extra areas of information to put in. And one of the more common things that gets requested is ability to put in attachments. So we've got what we're calling documents on the screen, and we've got the ability to attach onto this or any particular order unlimited documents. I can add in as many as I want. That's just going to take me out to my database and my server to add any type of document to the screen that I have access to. So these can be signed purchase orders, work orders, could be images, could be shipment statuses, could be Excel documents and PDFs, could be different versions of those to where we've labeled them all differently. I could store all those different versions and keep them out here as long as I would like, or I could delete them as they're being updated. And in this case, we'll know who put in the document and at what time and what the document is. All right. Going back out to the main portal here, I want to show you, you've got the ability to still enter in orders within Macola as you normally do. But we have a particular customer that had, let's say, 25 to 30 1099 outside sales reps. This customer had these outside sales reps would go to trade shows, and they have a lot of high volume, low cost items. So they often were coming back with large number of entries to put into Macola, and they were calling into the office. The inside sales team would enter those in. But what we wanted to do was give them the ability to enter it in themselves. Okay, so you can give this access to anybody in inside sales, outside sales, or if you choose to, one of the options could be also to a customer as well. You have the ability to flag this so that this order can be created. It would go into Macola, but would go into Macola as on hold. So this gives the power to let others create the order, but still give you the audit to be able to put in before you actually allow the order entered into the system. Okay. Instead of family bike shop, we'll stick with the bike theme. I'm going to select on here that I would like to create an order for Bike-O-Rama. I'll choose that at the top. It's going to default in for me all the information just like it would default in for Macola, following the exact same rules. So the default build to information and the default ship to information comes in. If I have the ability to edit, I can, or I could search out here with the magnifying glass and again choose the other default ship tos that I have to choose from as well. It's going to let me know right here at this point whether this customer is on credit hold. Not let me go further. If the answer is yes, then I can change any of the middle order header information here as well. And I can add a note, as we mentioned on the other screen. Coming down to the bottom, if you noticed, after I put in the customer name, we had the screen just immediately take you down to here, because typically you're going with the default information and you would like to quickly at times go in and just start keying in information on the screen. So let's say I wanted to come in and I can do a search on here for any particular item, or I can just start typing in the description for the item if I choose to, okay? So I'm gonna choose this non-food item in this case. I can come over and I could change the quantity. I could view any of the other information that's defaulting in and change that as well. And notice I've got both unit price and unit cost on the screen. Maybe I'm going to see that as the internal customer rep, but if the customer were going to key this in, they're not going to see unit cost. So I would remove that from the screen and save this search like we showed you before. Okay. On this screen and any of the other grid screens, we always have the option to export to Excel. And in most cases, we can print. Actually, if we want to actually print the order again and email it out, we can physically print, or when we print it, we can save it as a PDF then as well. But the spirit of this is to in many cases, you want to send out the note to the customer, let them come in and see the order here as they wish. And as we continue to work with other event manager products, this can still work hand in hand with that. So when you create the order in Macola, it can email out to your customer as you currently may be doing. If you're not doing that today, let us know. Those two products can work hand in hand wonderfully to allow this to happen. Once I put in any of the additional light items that I have, this is where I can click Save. By clicking Save on here, as I mentioned, this is going to go in, create the order actually in Macola Live, but it'll go in on hold based on the configuration that you have. Typically, we encourage that. And that allows the inside sales team to review, check for anything, and then release the order. Okay. Coming back out to the main screen, I just want to show you a couple other items. What I mentioned on here, this list here, I might have at 10, and I want to work this list down to 0 throughout the day. So as I go in and I approve, I update, I acknowledge any of the notes, this item would go down to 0. And the same idea would be for those that were waiting for updates on the customer. And I can actually see, I can have a link on here whether the customer has actually even read their notes or not. So again, this avoids the fear of, did you get my voicemail? Did you get my email? And then you get the what email. In this case, I might know, wow, customer X, that person's not read this note and it's been a couple days. maybe I need to find out if he or she is on vacation. Again, this waits for you waiting 2 weeks and then find out nothing was done because they were on vacation or on some sort of leave. Okay, and then you can work with whomever else might be taking over for that person during that time. All right. Now, a couple other examples that I want to show you are, we have some customers that have items that are waiting on inspection. This would allow me to have a search here. If I have certain items that are on order that I might want to know, these are the constant items we're waiting for before we can place our orders with our customers, I could have those listed. And then the same idea, late POs that will make manufacturing orders late. So this is again where our vendors and our customer orders work hand in hand in this case. Right. Let's come over to another example here that I want to show you. In this case, I could actually go out and I could do a full view look at my inventory. And on here, once I click on it, notice that I've got full access to the inventory. If I'm signed in as a customer, I might not have full access. I might have just access to the items that are pertinent to me as a company, excuse me, based on what was granted to me in this case. Excuse me. So in this case here, I can see any of the items. I could change on this list here if I want to make sure that I've got any of the items that have a quantity greater than 0. I could find that particular column and I could come over to here and say is greater than on there, and then I could click and add 0, and this would allow, if this was my particular quantity that I want to see on the screen, notice it updated that automatically. In this case, it's lead time. It can be for any of the other columns then as well in this case. Okay. Clicking back out to my main hub, going back out to the screen, we want to be able to show you another nice feature that we added in, and that's be able to see what our shipped orders are. So once an item has been shipped, maybe your salesperson, maybe your customer, maybe you're the inside sales rep and you've got the customer on the phone, whatever the choice is, I want to be able to know what is the status of a particular order. So I come into my shipped order screen, and on this is a list of all those items that have been shipped. And I am able to then come over here and find a particular one, and I can find a tracking number that's put on here. I could also have a column, though I can tell you all these based on the number are for UPS. I could have another column that says shipping company, and based on that, all my UPS numbers have a particular, we know through 1Z ... that they're going to be UPS shipping orders. You could still be using other third party, FedEx as well. You might just need to say what the third party is, and that would allow a hot link then, if they have that available, to see the status of it. So this is, I like to use this as an example to say, okay, I'm the outside sales rep. I'm about to go to the family bike shop. I'd like to see what the status is on a big order that I knew that was coming. And I can see here that it's on its way. I could see what status it's at, just like you normally would see with any UPS order. Again, I can give access for the customer to see this list. And in this case, I've got all shipped orders, but in their case, I might be able to narrow it down to just a particular customer and have that saved as a default. When they come in, all they're seeing is their shipped orders in that example. All right. Coming back out to the hub, I'll show you a couple more examples. Maybe I'll maybe this is a good time, Mike. Any questions that have come in so far that need to be addressed?
Yeah, Bart, I think things are going well. I think these two questions, one was a comment, came from somebody from yesterday. One was complimenting us on the speed of this portal. I guess their expectation was maybe their Macola software doesn't operate very fast, but that was a compliment to talk about how fast the portal operates. The other question that came up was, what is the cost of this? And the cost depends on the number of customers to have access and the number of internal people. But basically the way that we price this is it starts off with a minimum of 25 customers to start with. That means you could have 25 of your customers using this. And then we have two pricing plans. One is an outright purchase, what we call a perpetual license for a little bit over $8,000, $8,100. And then our month-to-month subscription price, which is an alternative to that, is either or. The month-to-month monthly subscription would be $750 as a starting point. Again, it depends on how many people internally as well as how many customers, but that gives you a good starting point, $8,100 outright, and then $750 per month on a month-to-month subscription. So okay. I think that's all I need. Oh, there is another question that just came in. Does the customer need a username and password to sign in? Yes, absolutely. This is very, very secure. So you would have to be giving your customers a username and password to allow them to sign in. And then once they sign in, that profile can do certain things. So it may be that person A, maybe a field rep, would have a certain, would be allowed to be seeing certain screens and doing certain things, and others would not.
Yeah.
And then there's another question here that came in just now as I'm talking. Are there ongoing support benefit? Well, I guess what the question was, is there a benefit of one license versus the other, but in terms of month-to-month support? So no, we provide dedicated support. We have 2 dedicated support desks, and we provide unlimited phone support, unlimited training, what we call unlimited retraining if somebody forgets or they haven't used the software in a while. Now there's another question that just came in. Can our customers we sell to have multiple people that can sign in? Yes, absolutely. You could have 100 people from a certain customer, because it may very well be that you're buying different products from that company. So yes, it's totally, there's no restrictions in that area. Okay, very good questions.
Okay.
Back to you, Bart.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so just to give you a quick example here, I've signed out, and notice that I've got by default here 3 different sign-ins. This is who I was signed in previously as my customer service rep. This is showing you showing you the limited. If you remember, I had 3 hubs across, and now I've just got 1 hub. And notice my information is much less. I'm actually signed in as a vendor right now, but I'm just trying to show you the same spirit there would be if I signed in as a particular customer, where we've narrowed down the choices, and then we've narrowed down the amount of data within the choices that are available in that case. So the same idea can be for a customer. And as I think someone else mentioned, if you do have any type of document, so a tax document can be uploaded onto here, that as long as you've got that, as long as that user has access to that document, it can be attached onto the order and put on the document screen. We also, one thing that I didn't mention is all of these links can be customizable, where we've got a full development team on our staff. So if you have another database that you would like to have a link to, this can be a custom database or a third-party software database, we can have links on here to where you could query that database as well. So notice up at the top as an example here, these are just queries that we've got into the McCullough customer addresses, contacts, users, okay? Same idea over on the sales side and the inventory side, and then being able to query all the notes that we've put in the system. But the same idea can be with any other type of software, database, CRM as well, that you would have access to as long as it's available on the server. We can grant you the ability to have a shortcut into here and then view any of the information on there as well. Right? Okay, one other thing, let's go over and show you some other examples that we have here. One of our customers, what they like to do, they had some good ideas, and this is where our software products or other software products are working hand in hand. So I mentioned to you the event manager, and one of the things the event manager can do is automatically send out acknowledgments, but I could still keep track of any order acknowledgments that need to be sent out. So here's my list. I've got 77 that have not been sent out. We mentioned to you shipments on here, but any other information that's missing, I can have as an area on here to double check on. So let's double check our promise dates, or let's double check the tracking or any tags that we may have. And then here's the opposite of the one up above. These are the acknowledgments that were actually emailed, and be able to drill into those and the invoices that are emailed as well. Mostly be able to show you any hot link that you would like to have can be configured on here, is other than it can't read your mind, I often like to say, or it can't obviously get access to data that you don't have freely available on your system. But once you put that on there, you fully can control what can be put on there as well. Okay. Just notice, giving you some other example cleanup and inventory and delivery wise that some of our customers have shown some interest with, and we think you might be able be interested in seeing those too. Okay. All right, Mike, I think I've fully shown a good overview of this. Any other final questions or comments that we have from the group? And saying this just to encourage others.
Your comment before just opened up the floodgates, and I've been feverishly keying in here. But there have been two questions, and maybe this, I won't get to answer this second one on, excuse me, on the screen, but there's two questions about the security and how this is set, what the customer can do. Let's assume there's multiple people at the customer, and multiple people from the customer that you're going to give access to. Maybe just talk.
Yeah,
I'm reading the new.
Oh yeah, no problem. I think I've seen
at the same time.
Well, I can, yeah, I can kind of elaborate a little bit. So up here under system, I've got an area for users where I can designate and I can create as many users as, we license this based on users, so we can go over with anyone that wants to understand what the costs are behind that. So feel free to reach out with it. But with that, if I have the family bike shop and I have 2 users at that family bike shop, they would both have a email and a password similar to what I showed you before on here when I logged out. They could come in and they could have the exact same setup here, but when they make changes, you would know whether it's Jane or whether it was Jim from the family bike shop that made the changes. And in that case, they've got the same authority. Or you, for whatever reason, if you want a different default screen for Jane than you do for Jim, that can be at their request or your request, you can have that all done down to the particular user level. It does not have to be to the customer level in that case. Same idea for any users within your company. So again, all of these screens that I'm showing you are specifically user defined. So me as the customer service rep or as a manager, I might see more information. I might not get in the weeds as much, let's say, I might get into the detail, but I want to see information across all the inside sales team. But if I was an inside sales rep Bill, then Bill might only see information that's pertinent to the customers that Bill covers for in that case. Bill could configure and add more items onto the screen, or someone that's a manager that's in charge and decides that can configure and change what's being made and available, and then limit that as well. Okay, so when I've got my action items, this knows what's signed in as me and items that I need to approve. So it's looking for Bill McNeil when it's looking for items that are approved by me in this case. And in that case, it's got that saved as a default. I could go in and make a copy of that and had items that have been approved by Bill then as well, and that list would be different, as I mentioned before.
Bart, there's another question that came in that might be worth discussing among the whole group, and that is this portal available on people's cell phones? And I think the answer is definitely yes, but a cell phone might be a little bit tedious. You could look up things on a just real fast, but probably this would work much better on an iPad.
Yeah.
But yes, any device that has internet access, has browser access, which would be any iPhone, any kind of iPhone, doesn't matter who it's from, iPads, any kind of tablet computer, as long as it has access to the internet, it would still then prompt you to put in your username and password just like normal. So very, very good question.
Yeah. And in those cases, these come up a lot, and it's often real estate space is the question that comes up. So in iPad, notice if you remember, we had 3 hubs across, And in that case, you might have something that's a little bit more narrowed down to where, notice that I've got one hub in this case with more items that might be a little bit easier to scroll through on an iPad or on a phone in that case. So you would just want to work on that to make sure you're getting the view the way that you want. But again, we're not stopping you. You've got a full access here as long as you grant the authority within your company.
And another question just came in. Is there any coordination between the security in this software and the security in Macola? And no, they're mutually exclusive. This one's using Microsoft SQL security for one thing. No, so there's no, because typically in the Macola security, you're not going to have any outside user IDs because they have to be authenticated on your network, and these outside people. So no, they're a completely separate set of security and managing that security. But very good questions.
Yes. Some of the other things that we can do, just the last comment that I'll make is a little bit of the automating. We can configure in this system triggers, meaning when a status gets set, something changes within your database, to send out an email, to update, to do something like that. We can build that in through here, through any SQL type statements, or as I mentioned, just the sky's the limit if we start combining it with knowledge sync and be able to do that for you as well. Okay. All right. I think that's everything on my end, Mike. I will say if anybody thinks of anything or didn't get their question answered, we might respond to you directly after the webinar is over, but feel free to email and ask any as well. And if you would like a tailored one-on-one demo with you or anyone else at your company, feel free to reach out as well. We can do those at any time, and it would be very specific to you to where you can ask any pertinent information directly with your company.